What's up? We're live. 8:48. So we are officially in the morning, which is good. So morning motivation, get your projects done. I'm here. You're here. Everybody's here. Hopefully the live crew will be here. Got my Freiburger shirt on. The F-bomb, dropping F-bombs like it's going out of style. Today we're talking about exhaust systems, particularly turbo exhaust systems. What I'm going to do, and a few more people get here, I'll go ahead and show you the thumbnail, because a lot of times guys can't see it, especially if you're looking at your phone. It's really, really tiny. And then sometimes you can't see it when you're, it only shows up when you're just looking for the video, when you're trying to find it after it's already played. So a lot of times guys have trouble doing that. So we'll go ahead and show that. And then we'll talk a little bit about, turbos, mufflers, exhaust, what's going on, what to look for, where the problem is. Welding Mafia is in the house. I can't wait to get down. I can't wait to run that sprint. I think I will be the most excited about running the sprint motor if I can get that thing to work on the engine dyno. If the engine dyno will actually go low enough to run a sub 100 horsepower motor. Who knows? At boost, maybe the thing will make more than 100 horsepower, because we made more than 100 at the tire with it, with the boost turned up. But at the normal, 6 or 7 pounds, I'm thinking 80, 80 horsepower all in. So I don't know if they've run something that small on there before. I know they run some smaller ones. They ran some of Jay Leno's stuff, but I think that those were little Lotus motors, but those are probably quite a bit more power than that. Probably double that at least, I would think. So today we're going to talk about the exhaust system, and I'll go ahead and show you, bring up the photo here. So this is our photo. As you can see, single turbo deal. This is a 3-inch exhaust into a 3-inch. That's a Flowmaster muffler. One of the mufflers that I use on my Engine Masters deal. Nice bends. I had to use adapters that we use on the exhaust for the chassis dyno, because we had to go from the outlet of the turbo. And then the only way for me to do that was use, because they had one restrictor or one reducer that went down to 3-inch, but it was too big for the outlet of the turbo. So I had to use one to step it up from the outlet of the turbo to the bigger size, then to the reducer, and then to the 290s, and then out to the exhaust. And so the question becomes, is the muffler the problem there, or is it more likely the 3-inch exhaust? So what do you guys think? This is a good, so that you guys know, because obviously there are different types of turbo mufflers. This muffler in question works very well. It worked very well on the naturally aspirated deal that I did. It represented no restriction at all in terms of power with what we were doing. And the one thing I can say is, when we've tested these mufflers in the past on lots of other combinations, the muffler itself basically does the same thing as a length of 3-inch pipe when we've run it on NA motors. But is there something extra weird going on with the turbo? But obviously right off the bat, looking at that photo, does the weird expansion chamber do anything too? So let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. Obviously an expansion chamber doesn't work the same on a 4-stroke engine as it does on a 2-stroke, but let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that giving the turbo the ability to expand out, which I think is good, because you want a really big exhaust, you want it just to open up and be big and be unrestricted on a turbo application? That's why we always try to get as big as we can on there, and then necking it back down. So necking it down is a bad thing anyway. So restricting going from something big, 3.5, 4, 4.5 on the opening of the turbo, and then down to a 3-inch exhaust. Does it do that? We know that that's bad. We know that restricting the exhaust is bad. Does giving it a chance to expand and then contract help it? Would it help if we give it not just time to expand and contract, but do we give it time for the exhaust temperature to cool off? How does all that come into play? What's working out there? And then again, is our restriction by going from the outlet of that turbo down to a 3-inch exhaust, is that really the restriction, or does a muffler add yet another restriction on top of that, despite the fact that it's free flowing, kind of just like the exhaust is. So let me know what you guys think. We'll put our poll up here. So, is a 3-inch straight through high flow muffler a restriction on a 3-inch turbo exhaust? That's our poll. We are polling. So, let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go ahead and check and see how we're doing here. Yeah, what's up? What's up? Yeah, up $2 on Amazon. Made $2. $2 chuck. So let me know what you guys think. When I ran the exhaust test, putting this exhaust on as compared to either a 3.5 or a 4-inch open exhaust, definitely restricted power. I wish I would have done a little better test. And I think I want to redo the exhaust test on the turbo applications again. And what I want to do is run an electronic wastegate controller. I think I'm going to start using the Holley boost controller. And if we run the boost controller on there, so we'll get that set up because we have a 3-port that we can use on there and the Holley can control that. So if I run a boost controller and we stabilize the boost, what I'd like to test is I'd like to take back pressure readings and see what's going on and then correlate that with changes in power if we stabilize the boost and make sure the boost is always 7 pounds, 8 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever it is we tested at. And then that way we can kind of see, is there a, we put the 3-inch exhaust in versus a 4-inch. Do we see a big change in back pressure? We did in the previous test, but I couldn't keep the boost exactly the same with the manual controller I think that we were using at the time. So I want to get all of that data, because we could just look at data points where the things were matched, but you have transitions that are happening there, up or down or whatever. I just don't think it's not nearly as accurate as I want that test to be. In a general sense, we know that a smaller exhaust is more restrictive on turbo stuff. And whenever we've opened the exhaust up, the motor sounds better. It responds better. It's the boost comes on sooner. Everything about it is better. But we want to get, a lot more accurate data. So if I get that test going, and that's something we could do while we're on there doing something else, it's not terribly difficult. So that will be interesting. So all mufflers add turbulence. Don't think I agree with that general statement, especially the word all. Because what if we find one muffler that doesn't? Then it's no longer all. So let's see what you guys got going on. I got a 455 Buick. What size exhaust should I use? What is the power output? On a stock one, you can use 2.5-inch dual exhaust. On a healthy 455, I would probably go to 3-inch if it's an NA one. What's up? Don't get good. Don't get done. Just get it done. Get her done. It does look like a 2-stroke muffler. That expansion chamber looks exactly like the pipe that we had on the GoPed. Although on the GoPed, we had this giant expansion chamber like that, and then it necks down to this tiny little exhaust. We are ring gapping another LY6 for the Trailblazer SS. We tried to cobble together the last LY6 using various parts. Felt a little tight going together. Engine will be a 408. Good. The turbo is kind of a muffler. Although I've heard turbo motors, I remember watching the Grand Nationals run early on in the Grand National development, and I was amazed at how quiet they were, especially for something running 12s or 11s or 10s or whatever. I was amazed at how quiet they were. But I have heard lots of really, really loud turbo, turbo LS's stuff at the drag strip. James, this muffler is a straight through muffler. Like I said, it's one that I used on my Engine Masters deal, and they didn't reduce power at all of our 600 plus horsepower Engine Masters combination. I know going from a 2-inch straight pipe to 2.5-inch with a muffler allowed me to pick up 16 horsepower. Yeah, bigger is definitely better in that case. I might put on a faux muffler so I can say I got a muffler. It's a perforated straight tube. That's what these are basically. These are not an in and zigzag back and forth. It's just a straight through thing with perforations inside, kind of like an old glass pack. No exhaust is the best exhaust. I would argue that having a tube exiting the turbo is better than just allowing the turbo housing to vent just straight to atmosphere. I don't think that works as well as actually having an exhaust tube and then a diverging exhaust tube. I think is probably the best. Because the exit of the turbo, let's say if it's 3.5 inches, I think if you go from 3.5 out to 4 or out to 4.5 and then make the tube 4.5, I think that's probably going to make it work better. Turbo Trailblazer SS made 837, 15 pounds, 85, 5-inch to 4-inch downpipe, no muffler. So actually, I have to go places. I can't because my yellow top battery's dead. You can't jump it or charge it or whatever. My Turbo 48 is so much quieter than the Friends NA SS2 6-liter that has mufflers. Yeah, and especially if on the NA stuff, if you don't put turbo cams in them, you put NA cams in them, with lots of exhaust duration, they tend to get louder too. I found allowing it to expand into a bigger pipe is not an issue, but if you try to expand it into a bigger pipe and then go to a smaller pipe, make it over the axles, even though the pipe is the same. My Turbo Silverado, let's see. When I took a Silverado and intended on a 3.5-inch pipe all the way back, no muffler. If it drones, I figure I may add some sort of straight through perforated core muffler. I think for a street car, I probably would put a muffler on. Well, and I will have one on the Omni. We'll definitely have the stock one on there at least for a while, but I will have some kind of muffler on there. But we'll test some that don't reduce power. Don't recall ever getting a drone of any kind with the turbos. What about with a Flowmaster? Trying to find better springs. I waited over 45 minutes for a comp to be all hung up on. Yeah, that's not good. I wish I had your head in front of me. I could science out a spring setup for you. We ran a big on the Bonneville Civic on this one. You can't really see it because of the belly pan and stuff. On this one, we ran a 4-inch oval exhaust because we want oval exhaust is super cool. We were doing it for aero and with the car basically. If you had to pick one, would it be a crank scraper or a windage tray? Why would you pick just one of those? Both of those can be incorporated, and you can actually incorporate a crank scraper off of the windage tray. I would pick a windage tray on that. Dynamax Super Turbo mufflers work good. I've seen 11-second muffled NA cars where they're way louder than 9-second turbo cars. Yeah. So you did a muffler mod, Honda Tech? Yeah, this is a stepped turbo exhaust. Stepped up, stepped down, stepped all the way around. Waiting for paint to dry. That's what coming here and listening to Richard is like. It's like watching paint dry. A 6 to 8 inch straight pipe works the best. What are your best thoughts on how much back pressure is best? That's a lot of bests. But if you forgot the best cam. Have you had success MIG welding DIY turbo kits? Yes, that's what I did on mine because that's all that I know how to do. How is your dyno crossover pipe welded? It's MIG welded. And how's it holding up? It's been there for years so far. You would have tried 1.5-inch pipe for that bottom end torque. Get that extra back pressure. That's right. You want to restrict all of that to get the turbo spooled up. What if to cut back on muffler back pressure, you step up a size from the pipe on both sides? So if you have a 3-inch muffler, you want a 3.5-inch exhaust going into the muffler and then a 3.5-inch exhaust coming out of the muffler. That's not going to help. Unless you also made it a 3.5-inch going through the muffler. Yeah, all of my stuff would be anything that I welded is MIG welded because that's all I'm good at. Although I do this year, I'm going to learn how to TIG weld. There, I've said it. What MSD box you recommend for a blow through carb turbo system? If they still have them, one that has a boost retard on it. Unless it's an LS, then they already have map sensors with those. Admiral, I can weld a V-band flange on the because we probably have, I'm sure we have, well, we do. We have 3-inch mufflers and 3.5 and 4-inch mufflers at West Tech. So if I weld a V-band onto that and just attach it to the turbo, then it would be a turbo muffler, right? Did you use any specific wire? I didn't. I just used whatever wire was in there. I have the Brodix IK 180 heads. Yep. Yeah, I wouldn't. If they come with a 987 spring, look, Java, you can always run them because a valve spring swap on the car is not difficult. You just fill the cylinder full of air or put the rope in and put the piston up. Just run the, don't go down to 986 springs. Definitely not. Try the 987s and see if it revs to the RPM that you want to rev to and it doesn't valve float. The best intake manifolds are belt driven. The best mufflers are turbine driven. My father and I built the 455 recently. Buick had distributor problems with the engine dyno and was pouring out bad dyno day, but it made 590 horsepower, 630 foot-pounds. Cool. That's a good one then. Was it a stroker one? Those are pretty big numbers for a 455. KD, my blow-through is just running the stock HEI, no box. Stock HEI will perform to about 1,000 horsepower. I think he's more concerned with retarding the timing. I think. That's right. Best rod ratio. The best dimpled rod ratio. It's infinitive. Nice. Richard, you should test a 3-inch catted exhaust with a muffler against a 2.5-inch straight pipe. This 3-inch muffled exhaust will make more power than any 2.5-inch straight pipe. I'm 100% certain of that. I know that this muffler doesn't offer a restriction. Oh, 409. So the opposite, a bigger muffler than the pipe. So step the pipe up. Yeah, if you have a 2.5-inch exhaust and then step that up to a 3-inch muffler and then back down to a 2.5-inch pipe, that would be, if the muffler was indeed a restriction, then you could make the muffler less of a restriction by doing that. Java, if you put 1.6s on there, you're going to run into valve float earlier with a 1.6 rocker. Don't say the T word. I should have a shirt that says that, right? Don't say the T word. Don't say the T word or the B word. That's best. Even if the smallest part of the pipe is only 5 inches long, it's basically the same as the whole pipe that size. I don't agree with that. If you have a restriction somewhere and the restriction is a small part of the tube, the flow rate of that, if you have 3-inch going down to 2-inch and the 2-inch section is 2 inches long, and then the rest of the thing is, you've got 5 feet of tubing and 4.5 feet of it is 3-inch and 1 foot of it is 2.5-inch, that's not going to flow the same as a 5-inch section of 2.5-inch pipe. Yeah, I'm going to have to ask somebody about a TIG setup because all I have is a 110 hot box. Richard, I have an Eagle 5.7 Hemi long tubes, 229 cam. Just select your turbo based on 2 things or turbos. For fitment, will a single turbo fit better than twins? And then pick your turbo sizing for whatever power you want. 800 horsepower, an S475 is good. I wouldn't pick twin GT45s for that. Those are way too big. That's more like 1,500 horsepower. and they're not going to spool like you want them to. If you're only looking at 800, even if you're eventually going to 1,000, I wouldn't pick twin GT45s. I pick twin GT35s if you're going to do twins. Does a 3-inch versus a 2.5-inch with the same type of muffler sound different? It will. It will sound different. I'm running a Flowmaster on my Silverado 3.5-inch downpipe. Cool. I have some kind of muffler on my truck, and I don't even know what it is. It's like it's glass packy, except it's bigger. So it is some kind of muffler. It's fairly common. When I took it into the exhaust shop to have I was going to have them weld up the people that put new cats on it. It looks like they welded it with coat hangers, so did a terrible job. So these guys fixed up some leaks that were happening before the muffler or before the cats. When it came in, I always thought that this truck sounded pretty good. And he's like, yeah, somebody put some kind of muffler on here. I said, yeah, they did. He said they did a terrible job on whatever they did. I said, yeah, I agree. It's not good welding. 3-inch V-band outlet with 1.1 housing. What size exhaust run for 850 horsepower? I would try to the turbo is. You have a turbo that's sized for 850 horsepower and it only has a 3-inch outlet on it. That seems pretty small. But I would step that up. I would step it up to 3.5. If it comes out at 3, I would step it up to 3.5. So your Buick makes it was a 30 over and it makes that much power. Cool. I'm interested in the combination. I have one of those. Mufflers in a turbo application cannot have any baffles in them or it will impede flow. It depends. It depends on how much flow you're talking about versus how restrictive the baffles will be. I just answered the poll. How much quieter is a low restriction muffler? All right, Sarge, go hit the gym. A lot of times when guys are talking about exhaust after the turbo, then like with a lot of these things, it's a fitment problem. Like, what can you fit? Yeah, I need a 5-inch pipe. Great. You don't have room for any of that unless it just goes right out the fender, unless it's a dump. So a lot of times if you're picking an exhaust, especially if you're picking a full exhaust, excuse me, a lot of times we are limited in what we have the available real estate to put stuff in. How much is an S475? About 1,000 flywheel. If I lose cylinder pressure due to cam overlap, will boost help? Did your cam over? You don't lose cylinder pressure due to cam overlap. In fact, you probably gained it. If you have a stock cam that has no overlap and you put a camshaft in it that has overlap, I almost guarantee you that you gained power and you gain torque and you gain cylinder pressure. And boost always helps. James, Richard, I had a guy asking about a 5.3 to make 650 wheel horsepower. That's definitely going to be boost. You wanted a 78, 75. I think I would pick a GT45 over that. Stock converter, 5,500 pound car, and a 4L60. Told him to build an NA LQ9. He's not going to get 650 wheel horsepower out of a LQ9, but he's not going to get anywhere near that. Not out of an NA one. I would rather do a 5.3 with a turbo on that than try to do an NA one. Even a stroker one would be hard to get 650 wheel horsepower out of. Is there any truth to the claim that baffled chambered mufflers can accelerate, get gases exiting them? I don't know how a baffle is going to be configured to accelerate exiting gases. I'd like to see that. I've never seen that. Johnson, yeah, baffles typically in a muffler are not good for flow, and so that they offer restriction, it's going to hurt power. Why do you keep doubling and tripling your questions? Thomas, what size turbos you recommend for a Buick V6 twin turbo? What is your power goal? Yeah, James, that's a good call. If he's limited with a 4L60, he probably doesn't need that much power. I saw 1169 of the tires with what he said was an S475. I've never seen an S475 make anywhere near that. Not any of the one, not like the Summit one or any of the Borg ones like I have. I think that they're about 1,000 horsepower turbo. So my guess is somebody's playing games with something. Will the overlap help cool the turbine? I don't know why that would be a thing. You're worried about things you shouldn't be worried about. Sure, Admiral, that's what everybody needs. You need 2,000 horsepower with the turbos on the 2-valve. James, is the 4L80E that much that much bigger than the 60? Does it require like cutting it up? Overlap doesn't do what you think it does, I think is the issue here. Overlap doesn't actually allow too much transfer one way or the other. People are seeing things there that are not happening. Oh, so you're going to have twin S475s and a TBS on it, a 2650. So you got 1,000 horsepower blower to spool up your 2,000 horsepower turbos. That will certainly help, especially on a 2-valve. You're gonna need, well, I guess a ported 2-valve or a trick flow 2-valve head would be help you get there. The 4L80s are definitely bigger. How's your pole doing here, by the way? Is a 3-inch straight through high flow muffler restriction on a 3-inch turbo exhaust? 54% are saying no, 46% are still near the 50-50 range. Fitty, tree fitty. Yeah, and then add 100 shot on top of all that other nonsense. I think the cool the turbo question is the turbo cam thing. I was told by others that an NA cam would cool the turbo. Uh, the guys realize that turbo cams also have overlap, right? Have you done the math on turbo cams too? Some of the turbo cams have quite a bit of overlap. So that's not a thing. About power versus sound. The problem with sound, unless you're just monitoring it with a decibel meter, is the sound quality is like wholly subjective. And I have never done an 8-into-1, but the Engine Masters guys did X pipe versus H pipe versus no pipe on their testing. And they also did muffler tests as well. The main drawback of too much overlap is reversion at idle. That can become a problem. Jeff, you guys want to do a poll? That's fine. Tell me what it is. I think equal length to an X or Y pipe sounds a lot better than a truck crossover. I agree. An X pipe sounds awesome. There's no doubt about that. And that's enough of a reason to put an X pipe exhaust on. Like if on my Mustang, if I were to run an NA motor or even a supercharged motor with an X pipe sounds really good, like a Vortec deal. People say weird things. I ran NA cams in my turbo because of the factory they were better, and people need to stop designating NA and turbo cams. They're just cams. They do exactly the same thing. Do you think the 4060 trans has a bad reputation? Yeah, mine just blew up all by itself. I mean, in its defense, it had 320,000 miles on it, probably. So, but they are not going to hold lots of power. That's been shown over and over again. The difference between 1.25 and 1.65 AR. They make a 1.65 AR on the S475. Is quarter wave resonator snake oil? I don't know. I have to look up what people is saying designation, what their designation for quarter wave resonator is. Maybe if two valve can make 500 NA flywheel, they can easily do that. The trick flow, a CNC ported trick flow two valve head will easily support 500 flywheel horsepower. We've done near that. I've done near that with ported stock PI heads. Story time. The guy said they had Flowmasters with baffles and they end up removing it, picking up a few horsepower. I firmly believe that there are mufflers that will be restrictive, and if you replace them, they'll add power. I don't think that's universal in a turbo oval style muffler design. I think it's individual mufflers do that, and some don't do that. Quarter wave acoustics is definitely not snake oil. Again, I need to know what, because my definition of reflected wave is different than whatever other people are saying that Helmholtz resonance is something that it's not, and they're saying that inertial RAM is reflected wave, and they're mixing up a lot of these different waves that are actually happening. And a lot of people don't understand what they are and when they're happening. Borg makes a 165 wastegated housing. So the housing has a wastegate provision on it. You've seen Tanner Fowles screaming NAL7. I haven't. It's a pipe that vibrates like an organ pipe at a well, it's a pipe that everything resonates. Everything we all do, this thing has a resonance frequency. Everything does, especially if it's excited. And organ pipes are one example of that. Okay, so they're not doing it for power production, then they're doing it for noise cancellation. Yeah, no, that could definitely work. They can also do that electronically. Rich, are you familiar with Fuel Tech ECU? I'm not. Is it better or more tunable than Holly? That's not the right question. The question is, can you do what you need to do with an ECU? Forget about which name is on it or what the things have. Can you do what you need to do and make the power that you need to make with an ECU? In terms of Holly, the answer is yes, you can. One of them being better than the other is only a matter of usually a subjective opinion, or does it have some sort of feature that the other one doesn't that allows you to do something that you couldn't do with the other one? And again, that's a individual application. Maybe one has way more channels. One maybe can do boosting gears or can do data logging, or has more data logging channels or whatever. Then that could be something. But there's not one that's going to allow you to make more power than the other one. It's not going to be better in that way. Should I go straight pipe on my Honda CRV if it's a turbo one? Honda Tech asks the same question. I heard as gas is cool, you can actually increase gas scavenging speed through engineered exhaust size increases. So as the gas is cool, do you want to increase the size or do you want to decrease the size? Because as you cool the exhaust, it changes the volume because the oxygen molecules are now closer together. Just like with boost when you intercool it. Same thing happens in the exhaust. Do you need more volume when it's hot or less? And vice versa when it's cold. At what boost pressure do you need ring gap? Any. A 1.5 to 2 feet after the turbo is all you need for back pressure. Actually, you don't need any back pressure, and nor do you want any back pressure. You don't want any back pressure after the turbo. You're going to have back pressure before the turbo. That's a function of the way a turbo works. But after the turbo, you want zero. Turbo LS has a VS Racing 88 on a 6-liter, 5-inch to 4-inch muffler back to 5-inch out of the fender. So you went from a 5-inch pipe. Did you go down to 4-inch pipe and then into a 4-inch muffler and then back up to 5-inch? Why did you go down to that? That would be like the worst example. I think that exhaust size that you have is more than enough for the power level that you're at. I'm just wondering why you would run 5-inch pipe and then neck it down to a 4-inch muffler and then go back up to a 5-inch pipe. Your localized speed of sound is also changed based on temperature and pressure. If a 3-inch turbo muffler is a restriction, what about stepping up to a 4-inch in and out muffler, then stepping back down to 3-inch? Yeah, that's what we talked about. If the muffler is a restriction, making the muffler bigger will help. What's ring gap preference on a turbo 5.3? 6.5 thousandths per inch of bore. Yeah, you need back pressure. Yeah, you don't need back pressure. Slid the 4-inch inside the 5-inch to keep it short. There you go. Six eight. I don't know about shops. I don't know what you're trying to have done. Are you building a motor or something? I'm building a 2015 Camaro 6.2. Is it 2015 and an LT motor? When did they start that? Hooker long tube, strange exhaust out the back, and a Pro Charger D1X. That'll be good. That'll be a good exhaust for the D1X. As the gas is cool, it would create vacuum. Is there an upside of running your wastegate exhaust into your downpipe or the fender dump better? As an absolute thing, having the wastegate vent to atmosphere would offer more exhaust flow technically than having that dump back in. But again, that's as an absolute thing. Is your exhaust already sized so that's not going to make any difference? A lot of times it is. Okay, so a stage 2 Texas B cam LS3, and what did you want to do? I'm trying to add a cam and springs. I don't know of any shops that would do that, or that I would any that I would recommend. 455 will definitely handle boost. I've seen guys run boost on jet boats and stuff, so I know that that's possible. Chris, you should have ring gap in that thing. Scott, with a GT45 on a 6.0, you're not going to need a very big cam. That you're going to run out of turbo on that more than anything. And what kind of RPM are you running on the NA motor? I'd like this information to go to Zoom. I'll have to cut and weld a V-bend into my header if I want to connect them. if you're trying to make 1,000 horsepower horse, fantasy horse, you want to have as big of an exhaust as you can. So if you can fit 3.5 or if you can fit 4, it will work better with a bigger exhaust. What would you do to have reliability and speed on a 5.3? What I do is leave mine all stock and then hope that the transmission doesn't blow up, and then it does. And then we put another transmission in it. I've used L&R. That's right. I forgot about those guys in Santa Fe Springs. Chris, the amount of ring gap we've just talked about like 4 or 5 times here. 6.5 thousandths per inch of bore. So you're going to have just put 28 thousandths in it. LS3 418 twins. New cam is 18.5 degrees of cam overlap. The overlap doesn't tell us what the cam is going to do. If you tell me what the duration and lobe separation angle are on the camshaft, are you trying to make 2,000 horsepower? Because I wouldn't recommend running those turbos on a 418 at 14 pounds. That's going to be more like 1,200 horsepower. And because those turbos are more turbo than you need for that level. But tell me what the camshaft is, and I can give you an idea. More than likely, unless it's because 18.5 degrees is not very much. Oh, that's a pretty fair bit. That's going to be more than a Comp 469 cam. Trying to look at some of these. So you have a pretty decent cam there. Probably something like, let's see, what was that 239 cam? Like a 239, 247 kind of thing. Yeah, Sergeant 30 thousandths is fine. Usually when I did even on the 5.3s, which is a much smaller bore, I put at least 30, and some of them were 35. Dax, a GT45 on a 6.2 with that camshaft in it is probably going to be undersized. You won't be able to run 12 pounds of boost with that turbo on that combination. It's not big enough. That's a 700 to 750 horsepower turbo, and you're going to be above that at 12 pounds. So you want to make 1,400. The first gen 7875s might work for that. So what are the cam specs? Okay, there we go. 243, 258. Yeah, that's a lot of camshaft. That's a lot more camshaft than you need in that combination. You don't need a camshaft that's anywhere near that big. In fact, you'd be much better off putting a smaller camshaft in it so that you get much better boost response from those things. Richard got some 455 info. And this is a Buick, right? 11.7. Okay. T8 before aluminum heads. Harlan Sharps, 950. Cam. So how big of a camshaft is in that? It's got to be pretty big then, right? It's got to be 250, 260 at 50 kind of thing. See, it was breaking up at the top, had the wrong weights, and the distributor didn't get full timing till 5,000. 100% humidity. It's good as water injection, right? I have never tried the cheap eBay mufflers. So we're going to close out our poll at 57% saying no, that they don't think that the muffler is a restriction. Dax, thank you. I forgot to donate. No worries. You won't get 750 wheel horsepower out of a GT45. You'd be better off going to a 78, 75, like from VS Racing, and those are pretty cheap. $540 horsepower at 10 to 12 psi is like 1,000. Yeah, that's probably about right. That math is 10 psi is 1.69. There's no ECM that will overcome the trash tunes I've seen from professionals. Yeah, a really good ECU is not going to stop you from putting the wrong information into the wrong values. Yeah, you'd be Dax. You'll be much happier with a bigger turbo than the GT45. If you're looking for 600 wheel horsepower, that's doable. Although even that, I wouldn't recommend that on a bigger motor. But it's really a much better 5.3 and 4.8 turbo. Do any of the diesel pistons steel? I know some of them have steel inserts in them, but were any of them actually steel pistons? Two more minutes. Let's see, where are we at? It's 9:46. It's time. It's time right now. We just had our rise. Man, that was a big run up there. Nice little run down, run up, and then run down. I'm feeling all run down. Let's see. Check in on AMD. And some things. Okay. You got here for the 2-minute warning. Snow, yeah, 268, 274. Okay, that makes sense. 600 lift stuff. Yeah, 540 times 1.69. Yeah, it'd be 912 at 10 pounds. Funny bike. I agree. There's no reason to have like a super loud exhaust on your car for driving around so that everybody else has to hear that nonsense. I know guys are going to go, I'll have any kind of exhaust on I want. I don't care about other people. That's great. That means that you don't care about other people. I do. And putting an exhaust on there so you can still have all the power you want and still do all the silly things and still have all the performance you want, but you're not attracting unwanted attention from anybody. Is a good thing. 90% of diesels have steel pistons. I thought that, I was kind of thinking that that was the case. Built a 30 over 460 for boost and ran an XM278 Edelbrock Reformer RPM. Is within 20 horsepower difference between them. Edelbrock making the most. But with boost, the XX made 70 more. I am lost. What XX are you talking about? Chad, can you build an automatic transmission for a B20 that's built to handle a turbo? And does anybody know? Does anybody know about that? I've never seen the. I'm not a fan of Honda automatic transmissions, but I don't have a lot of experience with them. So when I run Honda stuff, I always run manual transmissions in them. So I don't know about the buildup of the automatics. Richard, I'm off to wire up my new Aeromotive Stealth 340. That's good. So, Alicia, you're saying that the cam swap was 20 horsepower NA, but 70 under boost? It wouldn't be unusual that the cam will make more power. The gains are multiplied by boost. But if I'm reading that difference right, that doesn't make sense. I just missed it. What's the math to calculate horsepower off of PSI? 14.7 pounds of boost is 1 atmosphere. So if you add 1 atmosphere to the NA motor that you already have, you double the power output. So you can use that as your calculation. Half an atmosphere, 7.3 pounds, will increase power by 50%. And any multiple of 14.7 pounds, it's just math. So 10 PSI is 69% roughly, a 69% gain. Whatever boost you have as a percentage of 14.7 could be more than that. If at 29.4 pounds, you're going to triple the power output. Combustion temps are high in diesels, yes. Especially when you're pouring fuel to them, right? So you have an LS1 with a 7875, 3.5 to the axle, then splits into dual 2.5s. Yeah, if you did, you can do the math on that and see what the flow area is for the twin 2.5s versus the single 3.5. The XM was more under boost and Edelbrock was more NA. That doesn't make any sense. There's something going on with the test there. What do you think is a safe horsepower on an LS3 with stock internals? I don't know. Are you not doing ring gap on it? So if you're not doing ring gap, we don't know, because the thing is, we don't know what your ring gap is, and so we don't know what the ring temperature is while you're driving, and we don't know when the rings will butt and ruin your motor. There's no way for people to know. And the person that was asking the question about this 3.5 into dual 2.5s, what I would suggest is you make a V-band connection there and test it, and just run another 3-inch, 3.5-inch downpipe in place of the dual exhaust that you have, that's in place of the Y pipe, and just see what happens. See how much better it is. See if it feels better. I like testing those on the chassis dyno, but even if you test it at the track or out on your local road or whatever, you could kind of see what's going on. You could see what's happening to the boost and stuff. The exhaust testing is pretty easy because it's just like I said, it's just a matter of cutting it and getting it out of the way and just see what happens. And then go, oh, that was worth nothing. So I'm not going to be doing that anymore. That's why I like doing V bands on, because you could just put it back together, especially if you do the V band on a straight section where it's fairly easy to do. Yeah, Scott, he's not going to want to try to do that on an LS3 block though. Yeah, Scott, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on your combination. You have, with all the gearing that you have, I don't know what RPM range you're running, and the cam is going to kind of dictate the RPM range. Could it be the cam profile that was not liking the high drive pressure of the turbo? No, it's that doesn't happen. It would be very unusual for that to happen. If the cam makes more power NA, it will make more power under boost. I have never seen a camshaft that doesn't do that, which makes me think that there's something going on with the test procedure, that you either didn't optimize one or the other of the boosted cam ones or the NA cam ones. That's probably what happened. If one camshaft made 20 more horsepower at any boost level, it's going to have at least that much, and usually more, usually a multiplier of the boost plus the NA gain. That's my opinion, based on 3 decades of testing. Well, it can't be that long, because I'm only in my late 20s, so whatever that is. The factory, everything is pretty good on L3. It is, except for the block. We don't like going more than about 1,000 horsepower on those aluminum blocks. Das Boost. On your LS1 block, your block is going to be your limiting factor. But if you add ring gap, we've taken those to 1,000 horsepower. I probably would do less than that if you're going to want it to be reliable. LS3 with Cali's rotating assembly, but stock LY6 block. So then it's not what about that is LS3 then? So is that an LY6 with forged internals and LS3 heads on it, Kevin? Is that what you're talking about? Would you be doing any 6062 single turbo testing soon? Like what size turbo? I've run lots of 6-liter single turbo stuff. Fills in my area, cement fill them. Yeah. the 5.3 aluminum blocks are very stout. The other ones, especially an LS1, I wouldn't do that on an LS1. Kevin, I'm still not understanding what your combination is. If you have an LY6 block with forged rotating assembly, I want to know what part of it is LS3. Aluminum LS blocks are expensive. I know. I used to buy new aluminum blocks, and now they're big money for various buildups. He said the Edelbrock cams don't like stock manifolds. Yeah, that's not the right guy to listen to. Neither one of the cams, I'm not gonna say they're not gonna like stock exhaust manifolds. Headers make more power. So headers will make more power with either one of those cams versus stock exhaust manifolds. But I doubt one of them is going to dislike stock exhaust manifolds more than the other, unless one of those cams makes more power than the other. And the stock exhaust manifolds might be a little more restrictive on the cam that wants to make more power. But one of them working with stock exhaust manifolds and one of them not working with stock exhaust manifolds, I've never seen that happen. I have run sleeved aluminum LS6 block, and it would be the same as an LS1. I've run those sleeved blocks and they work good. Run a million horsepower with them, or at least hundreds of horsepower. And on that note, it's time to go. Come on, guys. I got to get going. Got stuff to do, people to see. Let's see how we're doing. How are we doing? No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Man, Tesla is just killing me. And on that note, it's time to go. I will see you guys all tonight.